Ever since Rian Johnson put his signature stamp on the Star Wars franchise, the fandom had been severely split down the middle to the point of almost no repair. When it came time to do Episode 9, Disney execs found themselves in a pretty tight corner, especially after the film's original director, Colin Trevorrow, called it quits due to creative differences, and of course the untimely death of one of its main stars, Carrie Fisher. In a seemingly last-ditch effort, J.J. Abrams was brought back to the director's seat once more to finish what he started back in 2015, despite the fact that finales have never really been in his strong suit. Did he manage to succeed in bringing balance back to the fan community, or did he just add more insult to injury?
I'm gonna have so many eye rolls in this review, I can already tell.
We pick up approximately 1 year after the events of The Last Jedi, where we find out that Kylo Ren is still Supreme Leader of the First Order, Rey continues her Jedi training under the new guidance of General Leia, Finn and Poe practice light speed skipping with the Millennium Falcon, General Hux is turned into a secret informant for the Resistance, Lando stops by for a moment to say hi, and the entire galaxy receives word that Emperor Palpatine has inexplicably returned from the dead. While everyone in the audience is still trying to figure out how in the actual hell he came back, we do find out a few immediate things about this new ghoulish version of the Emperor, like him playing a big part in the creation of former Supreme Leader Snoke, and somehow pulling an unlimited supply of Star Destroyers, each one with their own planet-destroying weapons, out of his old, rotten, zombified ass. The movie then quickly turns into one big elaborate scavenger hunt with Rey, Finn, Poe, R2, 3PO, and BB-8 to look for one ancient object after another that will eventually help them find Palpatine's secret planet in the hopes of killing him for good and putting an end to this intergalactic dispute.
I do have something positive, I promise. The scenes that I enjoyed the most were the scenes that finally sort of slowed down the pace of the movie, which were the Force connection scenes between Rey and Kylo.
It was definitely one of the few moments in the film where it actually decides to progress some of the ideas presented in The Last Jedi, particularly the lightsaber duel that took place in two separate locations at once. Plus, it certainly helps to have actors like Adam Driver and Daisy Ridley playing off each other so well.
I love all of the casting choices, not just with like the fun ones where like they have cameos or you're trying to figure out who's in the stormtrooper outfits and stuff like that. I just love Daisy Ridley. I think she did a great job as Rey. Like, I love it. I wasn't sure if like the original actors were able to like play their roles one more time before they passed, as far as like Chewbacca and R2-D2. I feel like everybody just died like within the past 2 years.
On that note, I guess now would be a good time to talk about Carrie Fisher's last screen appearance as General Leia, whom the filmmakers managed to bring back using leftover footage from The Force Awakens. And while the results of incorporating her into this new narrative turned out far better than most of us had anticipated, there were a few moments here and there where her lines of pre-recorded dialogue sounded a little too similar to a non-playable video game character.
Welcome to Jumanji!
Exactly.
It's unfortunate. I would have loved to have seen what they would have done had she still been with us, but unfortunately we will never know.
It got to me when Leia actually died in the film.
Yeah.
Like, it was meaningful, and then like Chewie breaking down.
That got me too.
And yeah,
so
when Chewie broke down though.
Yeah, it was hard to watch, you know? You can't help but think about Carrie. Carrie is Leia.
As good as it was seeing Carrie Fisher again one last time, there were still a few other things in the film that managed to put a smile on my face, like John Williams' Blink and You'll Miss cameo appearance. That was nice. That tiny alien creature named Babu Frick, who made me laugh every single time he showed up, and of course how the film looked and sounded on the big IMAX screen.
Like, the battles were really awesome. Like, I loved seeing those thousands of ships just like come out of nowhere and be like, yeah, we here! And I was like, yes! I get so excited when like there are moments like that and you're just like, yeah, this is Star Wars!
I will say that scene that was in the trailer with Rey and like the lightsaber, and she pretty much just cuts Kylo Ren's ship. Just It's
Yeah, that was a big...
awesome.
That was like probably like the scene that I was
That
like,
was the
looking
peak
forward
moment
to.
for me.
The scene that followed almost immediately after that was pretty gnarly too, with Rey using the Force to bring down the ships holding Chewbacca captive, only to shoot lightning out of her hands, resulting in what many of us thought was Chewie's death.
Yeah, like my heart like dropped in that instant. I was
Yeah.
like,
I
like,
immediately
no.
was like,
But-
Chewie, I didn't even care that she just shot lightning out of her hands. I was
But
like, oh,
again,
no.
I froze in my seat for like 5 minutes.
I did too. Did you guys see me? I was like, oh my god.
But it was so quickly paced that it was like not even like 3 minutes later, and it's like, oh, he's alive.
But it was such a relief, though.
True,
Like,
true.
oh my
Yeah.
god, thank you.
Anyone else got any more positive thoughts?
Oh my god, I'm sorry, but that freaking lightsaber fight, like amongst all the waves, that is awesome. I don't care who you are out there, haters. Like, that scene is so cool.
Everybody who was involved in the making of this clearly worked their asses off to make the best possible movie they could, so I'm certainly not going to fault them on the technical side of things. The story, on the other hand, is where most of my concerns come into play, especially in the various ways it acts like a direct sequel to The Force Awakens, as well as a complete retcon of The Last Jedi.
I love Last Jedi. Fight me. I think of it as my favorite film of the new series. Like, I enjoyed it when it first came out, and like so many people hated it because it was just not what they wanted. And I know Lala is gonna get on to me and be like, oh, and you're hating on this movie because it's not what you wanted. It's not that. It's a story-wise thing. So they didn't plan these movies, which they should have.
Yeah, like, if you sat down and watched all of them back to back like I did, it will become extremely apparent just how messy and unfocused this new trilogy is. I mean, say what you will about the prequels, at least they had a consistent vision of where it wanted to go. High ground! On top of all that, most of the prominent or talked about characters from the last two movies get completely sidelined in this one, like General Hux, who gets unceremoniously killed off within the first half hour, Rose Tico, whose controversial role in the last film has now reduced her to having 10 minutes of total screen time, and the Knights of Ren, who turn out to be just as equally pointless as the Golden Company from the last season of Game of Thrones.
Get out.
But by far, my biggest issue with this movie lies entirely with Emperor Palpatine and all the plot threads that connect with him. Let me break them all down for you. Number one, it's pretty obvious he's only in this to fill in the role for Snoke, which begs the question of why Disney let Rian Johnson kill him off in the first place, and the explanation they provide for his return is virtually non-existent.
And the only thing that it connects to, chronological wise or whatever, is actually an event that happened for Fortnite players, and at the end of the event, they had Palpatine's voice come over, and so for some reason Fortnite is now a part of the actual Star Wars series.
How is that more embarrassing than the holiday special? Problem number two. Bringing Palpatine back does nothing but negate Anakin Skywalker's sacrifice and redemption arc at the end of Return of the Jedi. So another reason to add why that film is forever tarnished outside of the special edition treatments. Problem number three. Since he's back with little to no explanation, how do we know for sure he won't come back after his second death in this movie? Maybe it's just me, but I fail to see how all the power of the Jedi and their Ark of the Covenant style melting techniques is more of a final nail in his coffin than being blown up twice in the same damn movie. Problem number four. Kylo Ren killed Snoke to become not only the new Supreme Leader of the First Order, but the main villain of this new trilogy, which really was an exciting implication The Last Jedi left off with. 5 minutes into this movie, he's back to square one to being an apprentice to yet another main villain, clearly setting him up for yet another redemption story arc.
It's the same Darth Vader Palpatine storyline from Episode 6. It's the same thing!
And of course, problem number 5 leads us to the movie's big reveal that Rey, who had been established as a complete nobody in the previous movie, is in fact the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine.
A what?
I'm sorry, but this did not sit well with me at all. Mostly because A, it's yet another play on the Darth Vader reveal that I'm sick to death of seeing in not just Star Wars, but in any other movie. B, it adds more fuel to the fire that everybody in this galaxy is related to each other, like one big incest pool waiting to happen, and C, it belittles the message from The Last Jedi that anyone could be special in their own way without actually being related to someone we all know. Much like that little broom kid at the very end of the movie.
Yeah, and I also don't want to know how a zombified Palpatine reproduced.
He's cloning Snoke,
So,
I'm pretty sure he figured that out.
Yeah, but
After he
is
blew
that
up?
and also
Yeah.
you're saying that Rey is a clone? No, or her parents are clones and she is the offspring
No,
of clones?
I'm not saying that at all.
Exactly, it doesn't make sense.
Who cares? Who cares if she's not nobody? I mean, she wasn't nobody until she found out she was part of that family.
It would have been great to have somebody actually be nobody, nothing in their blood, and still somehow force sensitive, because otherwise that broom kid is literally meant for nothing.
I don't understand why everyone is so upset that, like, Rey ended up being related to the guy. Like, you guys are acting like that is the biggest problem with the movie.
Because it is.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it shouldn't be. Like, who freaking cares that she's a Palpatine? It doesn't ruin the movie for me, I'm sorry.
At least in Last Jedi, they expanded the universe. You go to planets and different new places and are introduced to new characters. And this just rehashed old things. You go back to the Death Star, you bring back Palpatine.
I just
Too
don't
bogged
think
down
that
about
they
detail.
needed to add like romance into it either.
Oh,
like
yeah.
at the end
I
when
could
like
done
she
without a kiss.
totally kissed him, and I'm like, that doesn't like make sense, because like in the previous movies, like she's not into him at all. I was like hoping to like hold Ben's hand. I was like, as a friend, you know, it's like you know, like I was expecting more of a hug, not a freaking kiss.
If there's anyone in this series that deserved a big kiss moment, it should have been Poe
Poe and
Finn.
Finn!
Poe and
Yes!
Like, since day one, everyone's been rooting for those two characters to get together. But again, much like this whole trilogy, it hasn't been developed properly.
Yeah, but also the Disney overlords wouldn't have it, because Oscar Isaac, he wanted that relationship to happen,
Yeah,
and Disney was like, no, stop it.
So we end the movie with Kylo Ren literally nutting to death, everybody celebrating the end of the war, and Rey proclaiming herself as a Skywalker, despite the mixed message from Leia early on to not be afraid of who she is. Also, you're telling me this franchise had been building up this whole time for the bloodline of Palpatine to essentially take ownership of the Skywalker name?
Are you f***ing kidding me?
40 years in the making of this whole storyline, and this is how it ends? Like, no, this is why I'm disappointed.
Ems, what would you give The Rise of Skywalker on the scale from 1 to 10?
It was an entertaining film. There's like some stuff that I just didn't agree with. It didn't settle with me because it's like the last Star Wars movie with like the Skywalkers and all that. It's like I'm expecting something bigger than what it was. So I think I would have to give it maybe a 6.
I was so entertained, and I don't have anything really negative to say. Like, everyone has made valid points, and I understand why people would have issues with this film. Those things just aren't important to me in the way that they are to you guys. And because I don't have many issues with the film, I have to give it an 8 out of 10 because I had that much fun watching it. So if you're like me, you like to zone out in an IMAX theater for a while, watch some cool battles and laugh a little bit, this is for you.
This film for me, again, it was supposed to be the epitome, these 40 plus years of everything encapsulated into this, and then also finishing off Rey's storyline. I thought her being a Palpatine was a weak plot device, and it felt like it was written by someone who truly hated Last Jedi and wanted to erase it out of existence. And for that reason, and the reasons I've said before, I will have to give this a 5.5.
For me, this is one of the most disappointing movies I've seen in a long time. All it did was give me a newfound perspective that this whole trilogy was made purely out of obligation rather than anything remotely inspired. The writing is weak in a lot of areas, the fight scenes, while cool to look at, did get tiresome and repetitive after a certain point, and the emotional connection I had for these characters back in 2015 are no longer present in this. And it's for those reasons and more why The Rise of Skywalker holds its place in my bottom 3 least favorite Star Wars films. But despite our differences of opinion, we're always going to love this series no matter what, and while it's sad to see where the Skywalker Saga ultimately winds up, at least the franchise can finally move on to newer and better things without being tied down to what's safe and familiar. But until we get our next big screen outing in that beloved galaxy far, far away, at least we'll still have The Mandalorian on Disney Plus to keep us company.
I have spoken.
And that concludes our review for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, as well as the 100th review for Midnight Movie Madness.
Yay!
Thank you all for joining me here. And I leave it up to you guys in the comment section down below. What did you guys think of The Rise of Skywalker? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What are your thoughts? Leave them in the comment section down below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'm the host.
I'm Lala.
I'm Ems.
I'm Angel Eyes.
And this is Max. And we will see you all next time on another Midnight Movie Madness. May the Force be with you all.
Young man, I was once in your boots. I said I was in with the new recruits. I thought I was fighter for the Jedi.